I think God and Moses both just have enormous respect for each other.
Come live with me.
White gladiator has that big striped spear and
during dessert.
Look, the judges are nodding. Even the Egyptian judge is impressed.
Galileo, until recently, you claimed that the Earth revolved around the sun.
Welcome to History Bites. I'm Rick Green. When William Shakespeare was dashing off a rewrite for next week's premiere of Richard III, he probably didn't imagine that 400 years later, people would still be enjoying his work and adapting it to the silver screen. Will produced a string of brilliant plays: Romeo and Juliet, Othello, Hamlet, King Lear, Macbeth, Julius Caesar, The Tempest, Timon of Athens. Okay, they can't all be winners, but his writing has become part of the fabric of Western literature, a big part. Bartlett's Familiar Quotations has 47 pages of quotes from the Bible and 64 pages of Shakespeare. So it's easy to forget that 4 centuries ago, these hallowed classics were thought up by an actual human being. If only Shakespeare had the Hollywood publicity machine behind him. TV or not TV.
This is Merriment Tonite, the most watched Merriment news program in the realm.
Something is successful in the state of Denmark. Shakespeare's new smash hit, Hamlet, breaks box office records.
Shakespeare's classic, Titus Andronicus, is also back in theaters, raising the question, is violence on stage going too far? Some critics think the answer is yes.
I think the answer is yes.
MT talks to hot young star John Pike about being one of the boys we love for playing the women we adore.
In my opinion, I'm totally hot as Ophelia.
And with Hamlet hammering away at the box office, William Shakespeare is the name on everyone's lips.
When people go to the theater, they love to see, what do you call that? Oh yeah, an order-restoring ending.
Good morrow, everybody. I'm Bob Goeth.
And I'm Mary Hardy. First up tonight, what a piece of work is Hamlet? The 3-hour play was #1 at the box office this weekend, earning just over £23, setting a new opening weekend record for a revenge tragedy and scoring the best 4-day opening ever for a non-sequel in iambic pentameter. At #2, the brutal revenge tragedy, The Duchess of Malfi, in which the Duchess of Malfi finally gets her revenge. Down to 3rd place is the brutal revenge tragedy, Antonio's Revenge. And finally, the brutal revenge tragedy, The Revenger's Tragedy. Already there's talk of a sequel, Avenging the Revenger.
Thanks, Mary. Analysts believe that audiences are flocking to Hamlet because of its startling originality. It's the first time ever that a revenge tragedy has been about an Avenger getting his revenge in Denmark. Audiences may not know where that is, but they love what this country seems to stand for. Sword fights, poisonings, and a big pile of dead people at the end.
Robert, what light through yonder window breaks?
'Tis the east, and Juliet is the sun.
That is correct. Jerome, when shall we 3 meet again?
In thunder, lightning, or in rain.
That is the correct answer. Duncan, shall I compare thee to a summer's day?
No, thou shalt not.
Thou art more lovely and more temperate.
And MT went behind the scenes to bring you this exclusive behind-the-scenes footage.
To be or not to be? That is the conundrum.
Cut! It's not working. Cut that out.
Anyway, that's one of those things that make out of sheep entrails.
The line's not working. Cut it out. Cut it out right now. Cut it out of your script.
It's the inquiry. It's the bone of contention. It's the interrogative imperative, the mystical miasma of mental question. That's it, question. Okay, everybody, it's simple, effective, and yet it's only slightly vapid, but that's okay. Okay, everybody listen. To be or not to be, that is the question, okay?
To be or not to be, isn't that an infinitive phrase?
Well, iambic pentameter is a harsh mistress, baby.
Richard Burbage, you've given us so many roles to treasure. Henry IV, Henry VI, then you played Henry V, which some say was a step backwards for you. Tell us about your new play.
Well, this time I play Henry the 100th. I'm joking. I play Hamlet this time, which is Danish for Henry, I think. Basically, I find out that my uncle has killed my dad to marry my mom. It's basically a play about being proactive. But the twist is, he's not.
Well, team, it's time to vote someone off. One of you is going to enter the winter of your discontent. Who is going to get themselves to a nunnery? Which damned spot is going out? Who is? You have a lot of soliloquies in this play. Is this a more introspective Richard Burbage than your fans are used to?
Listen, Hamlet talks a lot, but I basically think of myself as an action hero. I don't want to give away the ending, but believe me, he gets the job done. Breaks a lot of skulls along the way. Mostly by being indecisive. He's an indecisive killing machine.
Out, swine cutlet!
I mean, let's face it, we're not making art here. I mean, we gotta be entertained.
Liver bodkin!
Hog sockets!
Oh, naughty painted Rampalion!
Come on, guys, come on. Everybody's back from lunch. Come on now, we gotta get going, okay?
Okay, it's got swordplay, it's got poisoning, it's a ghost story, it's a love story, it's got suicide, fratricide, matricide, and the universal struggle for self-knowledge in the face of the unknowable abyss. Okay, so I think we give you your penny's worth. Okay, and there's also a play within the play, so like it's like 2 for 1.
If audiences continue to shell out shillings, Hamlet could be the first play in history to cross the magical 500-pound mark.
Hollywood loves to trace its heritage back through the ages to the theater of Shakespeare's day, and the two certainly had a lot in common, pandering to the lowest common denominator and endlessly recycling old plots. And Elizabethan theater shares something else with modern-day Hollywood, an obsession with putting bums into seats. Thus the phrase, bottom line.
But it must have seemed as though that day would never come to this loyal group of Shakespeare fans. Plays are their passion, and they'll trek across hill and dale to be the first in line for Shakespeare. These trekkers waited outside the Globe Theater for 24 hours to get the best seats in the house.
Have you been waiting in line a long time? Yeah, we've been waiting here all night just to get in first. We are so totally looking forward to seeing a brand new play by Shakespeare! I'm dressed as Rosalind. She is like such a role model for me. You know, she's disguised as a boy in the play, so I'm dressed as a boy, but she's actually a girl, so underneath my boy's clothes I've got a set of girl's clothes on, but she's actually played by a guy on stage, so underneath my girl's costume I've got another boy's costume on, but I'm a girl, so that's weird, so I have another girl's clothes on.
I'm Sir John Falstaff.
Oh, sure. Anywhere.
Falstaff totally rules, man. Henry IV Part 1 is like the #1 coolest play of all time, and Henry IV Part 2 proves that sequels do not have to suck.
Oh, hey, now with that hunchback and hideously deformed face, you're clearly Richard III.
Tickets, please. Tickets, please.
And now a few minutes with Andy Roonbottom.
You ever been to a nobleman's court lately? I hadn't until I stopped in at a banquet last week. I was reminded why I'd stayed away for so long. No, it's not the smells in the castle or screams from the dungeons. It's the buffoon, watching a bizarrely dressed person with some obvious physical deformity or deformities, bounding around, smacking the guests with a giant mallet. Everyone else seems to laugh, so I guess it must be funny. But I always find it kind of sad, and not just because I have a club foot.
And with the cost of cloth, the price of silk, the labor involved in making a dress, more and more rich merchants and nouveau riche are literally spending their fortunes on clothing. And with one outfit costing so much, it's a case of wearing your wealth and having your financial future on your sleeve. So with fall fashions worth a financial fortune, no wonder more and more people are actually being robbed for their clothing. Thieves take the shirt off your back, the pants off your legs, and the gown off your gal. So more and more, folks are carrying this little accessory.
And we're laughing at the hired freak. And a buffoon can't have an easy life. After all, he's been cursed by God with a deformity. Some say deformities are kind of a blessing, but I don't get that at all. I tried to get into the spirit of buffoonery. After all, he's just a guy trying to make ends meet using the talents God gave him and the curses God put on him. But I couldn't do it. So I claimed I was sick from rancid meat and excused myself.
When we return, boys dressed as girls and people soaked in blood. That's entertainment. Juliet, Rosalind, Lady Macbeth. Many of Shakespeare's most celebrated roles were women, or prepubescent boys dressed as women. In other countries, like France, there were plenty of women actresses, but the English thought that putting women on stage was immoral, indecent. So instead, they put boys in dresses. These gender-bender boy actors were hired for their looks. They were actors with bodies no real woman could ever hope for. Actors whose careers would end the second they showed signs of aging. Thank God showbiz isn't like that anymore.
They're gorgeous and sexy. They're every man's fantasy. And they're prepubescent males. What's it like being a boy actor playing with women's parts? MT talks to John Pike, the kid who's currently sizzling the silver stage as Ophelia in Hamlet.
John got his start 3 years ago when he was only 10. By the time he was 12, he was already soaring to success in a popular production of Romeo and Juliet.
I'm king of the realm!
John, what's it like being a woman?
Oh, you have no idea, Mary. Will Shakespeare writes women characters as complex, thinking humans with real motivations and minds of their own, and I really think it takes a boy to play a woman like that.
But although young John's working life was wonderful, his personal life read like a Shakespearean tragedy. For the last 2 years, the once svelte John Pike has been fighting a private battle with weight.
When we were rehearsing Much Ado, they basically took me aside and told me I needed to lose 20 pounds to play Beatrice.
Did that shock you?
It hurt. But in this business, there's always younger boys waiting in line to be the next hot woman. So I did what they said. And that gave me a very bad image of myself.
What have you learned from all this?
I would change society's concept of beauty. There's unbelievable pressure to conform, to get the small breasts, the big hips, but we're not all built that way, you know? I think we have to be comfortable with our sex and our bodies, and then go out there and play the opposite sex in their bodies.
But today, John Pike is healthy and happy, and says he plans to keep on acting.
I'm feeling good about my body and good about myself, and I'm here to stay. Until my voice changes.
Tomorrow night on MT. Whatever happened to Dickie Dunworthy, popular boy actor of the 90s?
The acting jobs, they want the younger kids, and I'm working on some new projects in which I play a woman coming of age and a midlife thing, and of course someday I'd like to direct.
He's dead at the age of 36 of a sinus infection. He will be missed. From the world of medicine comes hopeful news for people suffering from depression. It may not be witches. An expert believes grief and torment may have less to do with Satan's minions and more to do with people's horrible lives. Reverend Richard Napier, who has developed a reputation for treating people suffering from deep sadness, says the death of a child or death of several children seems to upset parents, especially mothers, and may lead to other things.
One of the biggest stars of Shakespeare's day was Harry Hunks. He never played Hamlet or Macbeth. In fact, he performed the same part in every show, tethered to a stake in an arena while being attacked by wild dogs. Don't complain to the Actors Guild, call the Humane Society. Harry Hunks was a bear. With violent entertainment like bear baiting drawing big audiences, no wonder Shakespeare threw in some blood of his own.
It's been 10 years since Shakespeare's Titus Andronicus first shocked the public with its brutal vision of blood and gore. Now, an even bloodier version of the classic is playing at the Globe, including the restoration of several rare deleted scenes, with some extra tongue choppings and a blinding. Some critics say this Titus goes too far. Are they right, or are they making much ado about nothing? Tonight, it's our cover story.
As a Puritan, I am appalled. When our children watch a play like this, they become desensitized to violence, which makes them bored and restless when they attend public executions.
Oh man, Titus Andronicus, I tell you, it's really exciting for me to come back, return to an old favorite like Titus and update it for today's audience. And and the special effects, it's so amazing how much bloodletting technology has improved in the last 10 years. Like, first of all, we take a pig bladder, we fill it up with blood. Well, first of all, we make sure the pig's dead, right? And then we cut the bladder out, and then we empty the stuff out, right? And then we fill it up with blood, and then we fill it up with blood, and we put it under the guy's vest, right? The actor, and then he gets stabbed, and all over the front row. The audience gets soaked, the front row.
We decided to experience the violence firsthand. Roon, I see you're all covered in blood. You sit too close to the stage?
No, I butchered a calf today.
I went to the cockfight this afternoon.
I have large oozing sores that leak out on my shirt. All right, there's a lot of violence in the theater. What do you think about that?
Oh, we'd love it. That's great.
Shh.
And even worse than the violence, it is positively sinful for these grown men to be fraternizing with women actors.
But those aren't women. They're actually played by young boys.
Oh, well, then that's okay. No, wait. That's worse.
Used to be there was just like one theater in town. Now we're living in like an 8-theater universe, right? And everybody's complaining that there's never anything on they want to see. So now you got to grab people's attention. Meanwhile, you're losing a key demographic to the cockfights and the bear baiting shows, okay? And the puppets and the buffoons and the troubadours. I mean, the entertainment industry is booming, okay? And people have more spare time now than ever. Like, get this, some guys have as much as 3 hours a week.
Good evening. I'm Greta von Stern. Tonight on The Point, the troubles in Ireland. Can the British government prevent violence between English-imposed Protestantism and Irish Catholicism and Scottish immigrants preaching Calvinism? Irish Chief Hugh O'Neill was crowned Earl of Tyrone for his services to the crown. Now he's been called a traitor for fomenting violence and smuggling illegal arms into Ireland. What are the chances for a lasting peace in Ireland?
Let's face it, it's pretty hard to compete with a chained-up bear getting torn apart by dogs. But, because unlike a play, like, you never know how it's going to turn out, right?
Is the new trend towards reality theater making audiences more jaded?
Titus was the first summer blockbuster, and here's why. Violence. They're saying my plays are too violent? I'm worried they're not violent enough. Nobody says bear baiting or cockfighting's too violent.
Once more unto the commercial breach, dear friends. The romantic image of a writer is a starving artist, the unrecognized genius drinking themselves into oblivion. Well, not Will Shakespeare. He was the talk of London town. His plays were performed before the Queen, he was a shareholder in his theatrical company, and he grew wealthy enough to afford a big house in Stratford and a 20-shilling-a-day snuff habit. Kidding. But nobody's ever happy where they are. Actors want to direct, directors want to produce, and Renaissance playwrights want to do 14-line, 5-foot iambic sonnets.
Slipping to number 5 on the minstrel music charts this week is Mo Money, Mo Problems, Milady by Puff Padre. Up to number 4 is As Long As You Demonstrate Courtly Love to Me by the Backstreet Castrati. Down to the 3rd spot is Val 2 with Sunday, Poxy Sunday. Up 1 is the ballad My Getting Myself to a Nunnery Will Go On from the hit play Hamlet. And holding at number 1, the catchy and upbeat I Like Giblets by Harold Delane. And now, more of Mary Hardy's up-close and personal exclusive interview with the playwright of the hour, Will Shakespeare.
So, Will, I have to ask you, is the verse epic always better than the play?
Yeah, I hear that a lot, Come on. What can I say? Everybody likes curling up with a good verse epic, but sometimes you just gotta go out and catch a play, Look, here's the deal. People pay a penny for a spot down there, at the ground level. They're the common folk, we call them the groundlings, and they come for the action, right? They got violence, sex, pratfalls, bada bing, bada boom, And the rich merchants and noblemen, though, see, they pay 3 pence to sit up in the gallery. So, they come for the poetry, high art, lofty thoughts, And they also, though, get this, they get a kick out of the action. And they get a kick out of the poetry. So I put it all in and hope for the best, As long as it makes money, I'm happy, because, we built this theater, now we gotta pay for it. Well, the pay's the thing.
All right, let's see what's in the news. Ever since the anti-pope had excommunicated him, Cardinal Spud was sure his head was shrinking. When Prince Roy met Baron Andy, it was like an instant connection, like a nut out in search of a screw. Margaret stood for 2 hours at the village well before someone pointed out her jug had no bottom on it.
Listen, I got no illusions here. We put out these plays as good as we can, but they're just product, I mean, look, just look what I put in. Dirty jokes, fart jokes, double entendres, whatever works, right? Like, see, the theater industry turns these puppies out, and the public just goes to see whatever's been marketed as the latest thing. This'll all be forgotten. Even Titus.
So the legacy of Shakespeare ends here?
No, not necessarily. You see, I've got something else going on the side. They're narrative poems there. Venus and Adonis, the rape of Lucrece. See, if I remember for anything, it'll be these. Because, let's face it, plays come and go, but books endure. Yeah, the book's the thing.
The Globe Theatre burned down in 1613 during a production of Henry VIII, Shakespeare's Last Henry. Shakespeare retired to his Stratford estate in Stratford, and then in 1623, 2 actors who'd worked with Shakespeare collected all of his plays in a book called the First Folio. It was the very first time that plays had ever been published in a book and treated like literature. This book gave Shakespeare a glimmering idea of his fame over the centuries to come. Or it would have if he hadn't died 7 years earlier, thinking no doubt that his plays were dying with him. Which just goes to show that even when you're the bard of English literature, history verily doth bite.
And from the MT Celebrity Birthday File, Queen Elizabeth turns 68 today. Stargazer Tycho Brahe is 55. Playwright Ben Jonson puts his drug scandal behind him on his 29th birthday. And the future King Charles I celebrates his first. He was one of London's best-loved playwrights until a promising career was cut brutally short. From stage to stiff, tonight MT asks the question, whatever happened to Christopher Marlowe? Beloved by many for his popular plays like Tamburlaine and Dr. Faustus, Marlowe was the leading playwright of his time. He had it all, fame, fortune, and a facility for blank verse.